your dad going on box here. We're going to see what's going to T-bolt.
Love it. Comes up to.
I'm telling you, I come across a bunch of tools. It's in no order at all.
My left stroke just went viral.
3, 2, 1.
You're listening to Redneck.
Let's see what we got in here.
Yes, sir. Let's see, boy.
New gasket kit with exhaust,
Crucible train.
which is amazing because they always get messed up.
Bro.
Side cover that we took off to set your timing. They send you a new gasket. This is your.
Don't touch it with your hands. It's a white ceramic cover.
It is.
Is it? Right. Quality.
Kind of white. Freshy.
Oh yeah.
The thing about the new kit, it comes with the cylinder and the piston to match and the rings. But I still advise you to check your ring end gap when you put it in. I believe that's what happened with that one on the last time I put it in. I just ordered rings and I didn't set the end gap.
Look at that silver boy.
It's got the T-bolt emblem on it.
Oh yeah.
I really
Cross.
like their quality of their
Cross-hatched. Cross-hatched.
parts.
What's it called?
Cross-hatched.
Yeah.
Cross-hatched design.
Yeah.
This will be your piston. With a wrist pin.
Oh yeah.
Nice and crisp. And a set of rings.
That
So-
piston don't look much smaller, or if it's small, it's about the same size as the KB Mini.
Yeah.
Like, close.
The pistons are marked. I'll show you once we get it opened up. For your intake, some of them are marked for the exhaust. Depends on which kit you buy. But you need to make sure that the intake is facing towards your intake when you slide it in. Or it'll be upside down. I took my side cover off here so I can work on my timing. I got my timing chain off, it's 2 bolts. If you're going to attempt to put a 143 kit in your bike, you probably know most of this. But for those who don't, you basically got to get your timing chain off. You got 4 bolts that hold your head on. Timing chain tensioner comes out. This side cover needs to come off so that you can set your timing once you're done. You don't want to turn the motor over. Once you get your timing chain loose, you do not want to turn the motor over. Etar took the intake off of it to get it out of the way. This oil tube here has to come off because it connects from the top of your head down to your bottom end. So it connects all of these, so it has to come off. And that's basically it. We'll take these caps off so we can adjust the valves once we're done. And lighting is terrible in here, but I have one light so far in the new shop. So I've got these off. I'm gonna take this tube off. And the way I've got it set up on this stand, you'll get to watch us try to get that head off, because you have to turn your wheel just slightly so your head has room to slide off. And that's gonna be an adventure for us.
I say just pop the straps loose, lift the front end up, turn it, pull the head off, turn it back.
Yeah, we'll get it to where it's ready, and then we will tackle that. I don't know. Don't have to pull down that far, does it?
Yeah, there we go. That should come out. Voila! We got a genius on our hands. We call him Elon Dusk.
Alright, once you get all your head and your cylinder out of the way, these little C-clips, you can grab them with needle nose pliers and kind of twist them out. See how they're shaped like a G? G unit. You can grab it with your needle nose and kind of, when you twist them, you twist in a counterclockwise motion, and it closes them up and pull out at the same time, and it'll slide right out. You only really got to take one side out, then you can go to the other side and push your wrist pin through. If it's not worn so bad that it won't come out. Alright. You can see how it started coming out here. You should be able to pull it on out. I always look to see if I lined my gaps. See your ring gap there and there. Make sure those don't line up when you do reassembly. There's a small gap on your oil ring, then your scraper ring and your compression ring have gaps. You make sure they're not lined up or it will smoke for sure. How charred that is, I ran that piston for
Not long.
an hour and it was smoking, burning oil. May need a head rebuild, but once I do this, I'll for sure know that the top end's good except for the head. I've never built the head, and it's had 3 143 kits on it. 2. This will be the 3rd I'm putting on now. Which this one was just rings. I want to say it was just rings. But I think I put a piston in. That piston may be an old piston. But I did clean it up when I put it back together.
That was a piston that you know.
I'm pretty sure that I took this out in the office and cleaned it up real good and put it back together. And now it's, if you can see those scars on it right there.
Yep.
That's from, if I want to be completely honest with you, that wrist pin, I doubt you can see it on film, but it's really worn in the center. I know for a fact now that I did not, this is the old piston, because I used the old wrist pin, and it had a little bit of play in it. Y'all can't feel it, but right there, it's tight.
Feel that?
Going in the hole, you feel how tight it is? When you get right there, It's got, you feel that slop?
I'm the worst cameraman ever.
So it's it was worn out. Regardless, out with the old, in with the new. This is going on the wall of heel killing. Oh man, we had so much fun with this thing.
No. I'm telling you. KLX is where it's at.
143 and a KLX 110 is the way to go.
Oh yeah. Just watch his reaction video. Insert clip.
I think he approves of the 143.
Okay. I gotta get a 143, dude. Holy, it's two different bikes.
You want to jump that jump now, don't you?
I know.
You got enough
It's
power.
got enough power. Dude, it's like instant. Look at that. Oh, weird.
Alright, I'm going to try to hold this camera steady and show you how to put these circlips in. Grab it from the little retainer in the center. So I'm going to put this on the left hand side of the bike, so I'll hold my piston so it says intake, so it's up. And that'll be on this side. Just like I was saying, you can twist it in a counterclockwise motion and it kind of pushes everything down. I don't know if y'all could even see that. Then you just line it up with your wrist pin and it'll get up against your clip in there and square it up, and you push it in until it clicks into place. So now it's in the groove all the way around. Then you can just push your wrist pin back out. Now your circlip. Now your circlip's in there. Alright, I got you laid up here on the hood of the Razor here. There's a few things you have to do to your new cylinder. You've got these timing chain guides. They slide out and slide right back in the new cylinder. You've got dowel pins that go in a couple of the holes on your cylinder. You need to make sure if they're stuck in your cylinder to stick them back in the new one, or they could be stuck in the block or in the head, but you need to make sure they're all there. I believe there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe there's 4 of them. It just keeps everything lined up. And besides that, I believe that's everything. We're going to take and use some assembly lube. I don't think you can use too much of this. I like to use it. It burns off after you first start up, but it gives everything a good layer of lubrication on your first startup, and assembly helps everything slide together so you're not dry metal on metal. So I spent not very much on this tube, and I've put together several engines with this, so well worth the price that you pay for it, to guarantee that you're not going to have a dry startup, especially on these small engines that are air cooled and don't really per se have an excellent oil pump system. So well worth the money. So I'm gonna put my rings on. Make sure they're in the right order. You got your oiler rings. It's a little thin ring, and then your oiler ring, which kind of looks like a piece of cardboard, kind of zigzagged, and then another thin ring on top of it. All 3 of those fit in the first gap on the bottom. Then you got a ring here and a ring here. Just make sure when you put them on that your gaps in your rings don't line up, because it will smoke. You also, it's not a bad idea to take your rings, put them inside your cylinder before you put them on your piston. Take your piston and slide them in so that they're flat, and you take a feeler gauge, look up the specs. I'll try to put the specs on the screen here, right around here somewhere. You want to make sure that you got enough end gap for this, so that whenever the heat gets to them and they start to swell, that they don't push together and make the engine too tight. Alright, you can see I've got the scraper ring, the oil ring, and the scraper ring all in the bottom groove right there. And then I've got the black ring goes in the center and a silver ring up top. I'll put a note right in here with what order they go in. Now look at your piston, and it says N. That means stands for intake. That goes up because your carburetor's up top. So this is going to go in just like so. I'm going to slide it on the rod. I've got my circlip in this side already. So I'm going to slide it onto the rod, push the wrist pin in, and put the circlip back on. And I do have assembly lube on all this, on the wrist pin and such, so that it's not dry. Alright, the wrist pin is in, fully seated against the other side. On this engine, it's not as important because the way it's designed. If this was an upright engine, when you go to put this circlip in, you'd want to stuff something down in here so you don't slip out of your hands and fall down in the engine. But luckily this hangs out over the floor. So I'm going to take this. Looks like I need to spin this clockwise to get it in there. And it just clips into place. Alright, piston's installed. Now, here's a good chance, good opportunity to check your end gaps on your rings to make sure they're not lined up. You'll want to do this several times before you actually put it together to make sure that the gaps don't move, because you're always handling this thing. Now they make a ring compressor that you can put on here and compress these rings and slide them in, but it's been 50-50 with me. Sometimes it's difficult to get them in, sometimes they go right in. But with some good assembly lube, usually you can compress the rings one at a time and work them into the cylinder as you slide it down over there. But right now I'm going to take and clean up my old gasket off of my block. Make sure my dowel pins. Let me slide this off of here and I can show you. There's one of the dowel alignment dowels. Make sure they're all in there where they go, and then we'll slide that cylinder down here and work the timing chain up through it and get it ready to go back together. gaskets on, and I got my head slid down. I need to make sure to get my timing chain up through there and my guides, and then slide her on. Head gaskets on, and I got my head slid down. I need to make sure to get my timing chain up through there and my guides, and then slide her on. Alright, on the top of your head you're going to have, be sure you've got your washers. That goes on there. There's one for each bolt. And then you got your nuts that goes on top. You also we want to torque these to spec. Then you'll have the 2 bolts over there with your timing gear that goes down and connects your head to your cylinder. I got the bike spun around here. If you'll look on this, you'll see a T mark, and then on your case right here you're going to have a little arrow. You want to make sure your T is lined up. Now when I put the thing together, I made sure that my cylinder and my piston was at top dead center with the T pretty close, so that it was fairly in the right position. So you can line it up, line the T up for top dead center with that arrow. Then you'll pull your chain tight with it still lined up on T, and we'll put the sprocket on. I'll show you the sprocket in just a minute. Sprocket has the marks on it too. So you line the T up with a little line that's on your head there. You can't see it, there's a strap on it. Put the sprocket in there on your chain. Make sure that the bolt holes are lined up there and on your cam, and the T mark lines up with the line on your head. Here's your timing chain tensioner. It's spring loaded, and to get it back in, you can take this little screwdriver like this, stick it into the end of your tensioner and turn it clockwise, and if you can see, it pulls the end of it. See how it's pulling it in? And once it gets to the top, give it a good little twist, and then take your screwdriver out ever so slightly, and it'll stay. And you'll put it back down in the head, tighten your bolts up, and when you get done, you can turn this counterclockwise just a little, and it'll release it, and you'll hear it spin out. See, if you give it just a little turn, once you take your screwdriver out, it pops out to the full length and holds tension on the chain. 143cc kit installed on the KLX 110. It's been a couple of days, as you can see. We installed more lights in the shop. It's coming around nicely. But I'm going to do a quick start up on this, and then we'll take her for a rip. As you can see from that clip, the KLX is ready to go. The 143 kit goes in real easy. Few minor tools and you can get it in there and be hitting the trails before you know it. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and hit the like button so we know what kind of content you want to see. Thanks guys.